Hi everyone. I wanted to share another one of my manuscripts that I've got here in my office. I've heard it said so often, it's such a cliche, writers say that their books are like their children. That's not how it is for me. My children are like my children. My books are special to me because I've created them, but once I've written them, pretty much I allow them to, float down the river. Don't think of them too much, but I think about the new projects that I want to work on. This book, though, Timbuctoo, which I wrote in 2007, was really, really special to me. It's a big, chunky manuscript, as you can see. And it was special because I had come across the true life tale of an illiterate American sailor called Robert Adams, who was shipwrecked on the west coast of Africa in 1810 at a place called Capo Blanca. And he was taken into the great Sahara, the Sahara Desert. And he was enslaved, and he was taken and presented as a gift to the king of Timbuctoo. And eventually, and this is a real life tale, true tale, he arrived in London in the winter of 1815, half naked and starving. And he was recognized by someone who had seen him on his journey in, can't even remember where, I think in Mogador in Morocco. When I read that account that was published by my old publisher, John Murray, in 1816, it's called The Narrative of Robert Adams, time certainly stood still for me. And I thought, my God, this is the greatest story of all time. I need to tell it, and I need to tell it well. So originally I wrote it as a screenplay, as a movie in 1999. It was never made, has never been made, should be made. And then later, 2007, I wrote it as this big, chunky manuscript. And it didn't find its way into print for quite a while until 2012, when I released it as a huge, monumental 2 kilo, 4 pound edition. And it's incredibly important to me now, the story of Robert Adams. I'm thinking I'd like to read half a page. I don't want to read, see where I'd like to read if I can find it. There, I knew it was here. What I loved doing with this book was to weave in my abiding delight for the Regency, totally over the top, when the haves were haves and the have-nots were have-nots. And I completely went over the top, but I had the greatest time. I loved writing when Robert Adams was invited to the Pavilion in Brighton by the Prince Regent. And I went totally overboard. But I just had so much fun writing it. Here. Sorry. Okay, I'll read here. This is at the Brighton Pavilion in 1816. The great chef, Marie-Antoine Carême, had been at work in the kitchen since 6 that morning, overseeing the legions of staff. The conquest of Napoleon had been a triumph in every way, but was celebrated most of all by the Prince Regent, for it had enabled him to poach Carême, the great chef, from the Emperor's foreign minister, Charles Maurice de Talleyrand. The master chef was as much an architect as he was a gourmet. He was celebrated for adorning banquet tables with pièces montées, elaborate sculptures crafted from spun sugar, pastry, and marzipan. As for his cuisine, he blended delicate tastes and colors, concocting menus the likes of which even the gastronomic prince regent had never imagined, let alone seen. Before leaving London for the coast, Carême was advised of Adams's invitation by Hastings and instructed to create a special dessert. The budget was set for £250 for a dessert that was to be more elaborate than anything he had ever created before. When it came to his guests, the regent liked to feign forgetfulness, but in reality, there was no detail that slipped his attention, and few things that gave him so much joy as to fashion a spectacle that would be admired by all. The great kitchen at the pavilion was cavernous, as large as a banqueting hall itself, and was regarded as the most advanced kitchen ever built. There were mechanically operated roasting spits, huge tent-like copper awnings to waft away the heat, remote-controlled sash vents in the roof, and in the middle of the room, a 13-foot steam-heated preparation table. Bronze pots and pans hung around the room on their handles, the burnished undersides reflecting the lamplight. The army of sous chefs were darting about, carrying orders from their leader to the other chefs, from their great leader, the Antoine Carême. I really recommend anyone not to read this book necessarily, but to delve into the fabulousness of the Regency, particularly reading novels from the time, novels by Jane Austen and others that talk about the intricacies of social class, but also the details of of a brave new world that was only at last beginning to burgeon forth.